these very letters you are reading. Of the 300 scripts humanity has ever made, they descend from the one that conquered the world. And its ancestor was no king or scholar, but graffiti, a nameless slave scratched on a mine wall in Egypt 4,000 years ago. Some 300 scripts are alive on Earth today. But trace all 300 back, and astonishingly, they branch from just 7 ancestors. Inventing writing was one of the rarest events in human history. Today, we broadcast the 4,000-year tournament these 7 fought. One rule who left the most descendants, becoming the letters in our hands. And the winner was the least likely contender of all. First, bracket the family tree of writing. Just as biologists draw a tree of species, scripts have parents and children, so we can count descendants. Victory isn't decided by power or beauty. Only by the number of children, how many descendant scripts still survive. Our contenders were born 2 ways. First, the inspired kind, glancing at another script, a kind of cheating. Astonishingly, our champion came from exactly this cheat. The second path is far greater. Inventing writing from absolute nothing, never having seen the very idea. Sumer, China, and Maya are these true geniuses. Here are the 7 contenders in the ring. Sumerian, Egyptian, proto-sinaitic, Chinese, Maya, Indus, and Cretan. Some were dazzling favorites, some were out before they began. Contender 1, Sumerian cuneiform. 3400 BC, the oldest writing humanity ever left behind. By age alone, the absolute favorite. Yet this great contender debuted not as poetry, but as receipts. Merchants pressed reeds into wet clay to count barley and sheep. Writing was born not from art, but from accounting. Sumerian cuneiform reigned for 3,000 years. From Akkadian to Persian, more than 15 languages borrowed its signs. But here comes a shocking twist. This top favorite has not a single direct descendant. After reigning 3,000 years, it scores 0 heirs. Contender 1 falls first. Still, Sumer didn't live in vain. With wedge-pressed marks, clay tablets, and a 2,800-year record, it was the pioneer that first proved writing was even possible. Contender 2, Egyptian hieroglyphs. 3,200 BC, the most dazzling of all, called the language of the gods. And this one would become the mother of every alphabet. The Egyptians only glimpsed the idea from Sumer. The signs were entirely their own. A bird, an eye, a ripple, a reed. They copied the visible world straight onto the wall. Egypt's real power lay in its descendants. Phoenician, Greek, Latin, Arabic, Hebrew, all came from this line. But the hieroglyphs themselves handed the crown to those heirs and quietly vanished. The Egyptian script evolved into 3 faces. The hieroglyphic of temple walls, the priest's flowing hieratic, and the demotic of the market. Yet even this dazzling contender was nearly erased. For 1,500 years, no one could read it. Until Champollion woke it with the Rosetta Stone in 1822, the pharaoh's names stayed locked in stone. And contender 3. Honestly, nobody bet on this one. It's the very mind graffiti that opened this video. In a pharaoh's turquoise mine, the illiterate Semitic slaves had been hauled to work. They couldn't learn Egypt's intricate picture writing, so they stole just one thing: the idea that one picture means one sound. This crude cheat was the seed of the alphabet. To cut to it, this slave's graffiti became the most influential script in history. Arabic, Hebrew, Greek, Latin all sprang from it, and about 70% of the world now writes atop this cheat. So how did the underdog beat every king? The answer comes shortly. But before that answer, we leave the West for the East. Contender 4, Chinese oracle bone script, 1200 BC. This one was playing an entirely different game. This script was born to foretell the future. Shang kings scorched turtle shells and ox blades in fire. They read the god's will in the cracks and carved the question and answer onto the bone. A true genius, invented from absolute nothing. And here it parts from every other contender. Sumerian died, Egyptian died, the oracle bone script never did. 3,200 years on, it lives as the characters of Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. Some 1.5 billion people still write this ancestral. The oracle bone script held the world through 3 principles: pictograph, indicative, compound. Sun plus moon makes bright. Rather than spread like an alphabet, this contender chose to rule one vast empire, East Asia. Contender 5 appears across the ocean where no one expected. The Maya script. Not Europe, not Asia, the heart of the Central American jungle. This is a staggering feat. The Maya script is the only complete writing invented entirely alone in the New World. With no outside contact, humanity pulled off the same miracle from scratch again. Yet this contender was nearly erased in the ring. In 1562, the Friar de Lunda burned thousands of Maya books as heresy. From those flames, only 4 survived. But there's a twist. The same de Lunda left a notebook recording the glyph's sounds. Ironically, the arsonist's record became the key to decipherment. Today, about 90% of the Maya script can be read. The last 2 contenders are scripts that still beat us today. 6th, the Indus script. Left around 2600 BC by the Indus Valley civilization. More than 4,000 Indus inscriptions have been found. It's not that we lack material. Yet for over a century, the finest minds have all failed, and the rate is still 0. Some even argue whether it's writing at all. Contender 7, Cretan Linear A. 1800 BC, the script of the Minoan civilization. And it hides the strangest paradox in the history of writing. Linear A has a child, Linear B. But the child was deciphered in 1952, while the parent still can't be read. A tree turned upside down, the child speaks. The parent stays silent. So all 7 contenders are in. Time to light up the scoreboard. One question: who left the most descendants? The result is brutally clear. The eldest, Sumer, scored 0 Indus, and Linear A stays silent. But the runaway winner is that youngest, humblest mine graffiti proto-sinaitic. Over 100 descendant scripts. So how did a slave's graffiti beat the scripts of kings? The secret wasn't the contender itself, but the perfect manager it found. It was the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians didn't invent writing. They invented what to leave out. They refined that graffiti down to just 22 consonant signs. Anyone could learn it in days, the first easy script. And the Phoenicians were the sea's greatest merchants. In every port, they unloaded these 22 letters with the cargo. To Greece, Aramea, the Hebrews, Arabia. Writing rode the trade routes across the whole sea. And the Greeks landed the decisive blow. To that consonant-only script, they added vowels for the first time. Phoenician to Greek, Greek to Latin, Latin to all of Europe. The ABC you see now is the finish line. That doesn't mean East Asia lost. While the alphabet conquered the western seas, Chinese built its own empire, never mixing with that river. There were, in truth, two trophies. Chinese cast an enormous shadow over its neighbors. Japan's hiragana and Vietnam's chu nom were true children of Chinese, cursively written and recombined from its characters. But in that same sphere, one script took an entirely different path. Korea's Hangul. Hangul is a slightly unusual branch on this tree. Sejong drew on existing scripts, but engineered its letter shapes anew, modeled on the organs of speech. Rather than inheriting forms, it was built from the principle of how sounds are made. Now we unfurl the entire bracket. From 7 roots to 300 leaves, 4,000 years on one page. On the left, the alphabet's river; on the right, East Asia's. The two flowed apart, yet began the very same way. On opposite ends of Earth, unaware of each other, humanity dreamed one dream: to make thought visible. And this tree has one more giant branch we couldn't fully cover: the Brahmi script of India. From it stretched Thai, Burmese, Khmer, and Tibetan. The entire southern half of Asia rests on this single limb. One last chilling fact. Even the scripts of the world's 3 most warring religions are one family. Hebrew, Arabic, and Old Aramaic are all siblings, split from Phoenician. Today we crown the winner of a 4,000-year tournament. Not a king, not a god, but the crude graffiti of a few nameless slaves conquered the world. From 7 roots to 300 branches. And this tree is still growing. Emoji, new invented scripts. Someday they too may be leaves. Even the letter you tap today is the tip of a tree that began as mind graffiti 4,000 years ago. To explore this family tree yourself, visit the phylogeny page on the SCRIPTA archive. Every script's parent and child link is mapped as a node. Click a node and its story unfolds. This is SCRIPTA Season 9, digging into the systems of human civilization, one by one. If this family tree amazed you, subscribe and like to add one more leaf